Hi, everyone. This is Michele Graglia.
This is Marianne Hogan.
Hi, I'm Adrian McDonald.
I'm Katie Asmit.
Hi, this is Anthony Gasals.
Hi, my name is Meg Morgan.
Hey, it's Jordan Trove.
This is John Ray.
This is Ryan Van Duzer, and you are listening to the Gotta Run Racing Podcast.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Gotta Run Podcast.
Here we are with our final revisit with our chats with race directors. Last but not least, Andrew Fairhurst, the co-director of North America's only qualifier of the Skyrunner World Series, Meet the Minotaur in Crowsnest, Alberta, which features 2,900 meters of elevation gain over 33K with a 12-hour time limit. Tells you just how difficult this race is. And of course, his chat inspired us to come out and be at this race in person.
Yeah, and to do the 10K. And if you want to watch our 10K Meet the Minotaur, it's on our YouTube channel. I've videotaped Jody falling many times.
And getting lost.
Yes.
And being scared out of my mind.
Calling out for bears that were never there. But you don't know. Anyway.
All right. Here is Andrew.
Revisited.
Welcome, Andrew, to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, you guys.
What made you want to become a director?
Probably, well, one, I'm so passionate about sport. I'm not going to lie. Like I love the idea of competition, but further to that, I think I love the mountains and trails and that sort of outdoor environment. And then to extend that, to answer your question specifically, it's like, because I love it so much, I want to introduce that to as many people as possible. And I think it's done so many good things in my life for positive outlooks and good positive lifestyle, respect for the environment and the places that we're at, that I'm like, what a better way there's probably no better way than to introduce people to that environment than the same way that I got into it. And so it was more so like, if these events exist and getting into people into places that they may not normally get to, which, not to segue towards Minotaur, but that's really what that type of event has done, is put people into an environment that they're not typically used to. And coming away, like the experience of seeing people cross the finish line, either with massive grins on their face or tears streaming down their face with like this pure joy of, I just completed that, or whatever it might be. That's when I get all tingly inside and be like, okay, success. We just did something that hopefully changed someone's life.
Exactly.
That's why I do it. It's to try and give those experiences to other people, period.
Yeah. We can understand that for sure.
Yeah, we understand that.
Now, Meet the Minotaur. It's the only North American skyrunning race. Yeah,
so Meet the Minotaur is sort of we originated back in 2017 and we called it the Meet the Minotaur. But in 2020, we actually joined the Skyrunner World Series. There's a bit of an evolution between 2017 and 2020. But in 2020, we decided, okay, what we're actually doing here is skyrunning, which has a definition. And so we thought, okay, let's see what we can do to maybe join the World Series. And we had reached out to them. There was a lot of background, of course, back and forth that had to happen. We got our course certified with the International Skyrunning Federation. We were able to join the skyrunning circuit, and we were the only North American stop in the Skyrunner World Series.
How did the name come about?
The Minotaur, well, that comes back to our origin, and it's just a really good question. And I'm fortunate to be part of a really great team. I've got business partners, my wife, Erin, and our good friends, Ian and Susan, and we all bring different strengths to the table. But my wife is probably more on the creative side. She's a creative writer and graphic designer, etc. And she came up with the idea of Minotaur being like sort of a Greek mythology, when you're stuck in the maze and you had to get out, and before the Minotaur got you. So our first races back in 2017 were actually pretty interesting. We'd actually have the running race start. Imagine starting at a start line, not knowing how far you're running and not knowing where you're going.
Ooh.
And to add to it, you'd be running through the race course and you'd come up to two signs with quick information on them. And they might be short but vertical, or long and flat. And you'd have to make a decision on two route choices all of a sudden, like immediately. And you could either take a shorter a shorter route up and over to connect to the course that was longer, was more vertical, so it might be slower. Or you could, if you felt like flat was your strength, you could sort of contour around something and then reconnect the course. So the idea of making these decisions as you would in a maze, like, am I going to go left or am I going to go right? And we thought it was a great business idea, but
sounds good.
it was exciting. It was really cool to watch it unfold. And then, of course, people at the finish line talking about, like, oh, what did you do at this labyrinth? We called them the labyrinths. So they're like, oh, I did the up and over. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure. And yeah, there's certainly a lot of chatter. So that's how the Minotaur came about. But it's such a cool name, and we love our logo that it just carried on into Minotaur Sky Race. And Minotaur Sky Race's evil little sister, we have the Minotaur 10K, which we tout as the hardest 10K in Canada.
Wow.
The two events on our race day, which play off of the Minotaur name.
That's really cool.
Wow. Tell us about this race, the Minotaur. Explain this race to us.
The course for people
for the world to get to who wants to come and do this race. Go. Explain this race.
Okay. So the Minotaur Sky Race, we are, as I said, it's a 33.5 kilometer race course. It's got 2,900 meters of climbing. So just under 10,000 vertical feet of climbing. So that's about 20,000 feet of elevation change, because we start and finish right in the hub of Blairmore, which in the Crowsnest Pass. Unlike the other races in the series, which usually have two significant climbs, we're probably one of the most technical race courses in the Skyrunner World Series. We've got three prominent climbs. The first one being a 900-meter climb, like almost a full vertical kilometer, within the first 5 kilometers at the start of the race.
Wow.
So we definitely play on hitting definitely play on the elevations, getting up high into the mountains, like well over 2,000 meters, 2,500 meters in elevation, a lot of running ridges, and very rocky technical terrain. So to have a certified course with the ISF, they look at a lot of different factors, as the amount of pavement in the race course, the amount of trail in the race course, and then of course the amount of distance that's above a certain elevation.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also look at the difference between the lowest elevated point in your course and the highest elevated point in the course. Okay. Looking ideally to have at least 1,000 meters of difference between those two locations in the race course to meet those standards. I sort of inadvertently defined how skyrunning may differ than trail running, in that it does get you up high in the mountains into more of a technical environment than trail running would. And I don't want to say technical in that you have to have ropes and safety gear and everything, but there are many points in in the Minotaur race course that there are like all hands on deck. Like you're not just using your feet, you're having to use your hands for stability or to clamber up and over things. And the race course, 33.5 kilometers long, we allow, you both know how long it takes you to run 33.5 kilometers on trail. We allow 12 hours to complete our race course, which gives you an idea of how quickly you're moving through the type of terrain. It's also a pretty remote race course, because most of our race is off trail and we're up in the mountains and on ridges. Well, to give you an idea, one of our first 2 aid stations are basically remote field camps. We can't drive there. We can't get there. So the week prior to the event is us transporting stuff into that location to set it up to be, we've got a small field hospital. We have the full aid stations. We have a full filtration system for filtering water, because it's not realistic to bring that much water into the remote locations.
Right.
It's a pretty remote feeling. And in talking to some of the European athletes that came over for the World Series last year, that was probably their biggest takeaway, that, wow, that course was unbelievably technical. And they use the word primitive, because our trails, and we don't have the established trails that you see in Europe, of course.
Yeah.
But then this idea of remoteness just that blew them away. Like we weren't running through villages. The course wasn't lined with thousands of spectators up the mountain. It was a pretty remote feeling for sure. But yeah.
I have a couple questions. What's the highest elevation that you get to in the race?
So we get just under 8,000 feet of elevation, and the race starts at 4,250 elevation per feet.
Okay. It must be hard to flag this. How long does it take you to mark the course?
It takes, so we have a team of volunteers, and then myself and Ian, my business partner, Ian, Susan, and Aaron, all four of us get out and mark the race course, 2 race courses. And it all has to be like, we can't drive. You can't use an ATV. It's even a mountain bike we can use to help. So everything we carry is in our backpacks, and we're basically going through the whole entire course. But it takes us about 5 days to mark the course with a team of volunteers. And we do that strictly. We want to have like a no impact event. So we don't use any paint of any type. So everything is either with pin flags, signage, or just ribbon off of branches and such. So
Okay. Oh, and my other question was, do you know what the average finish time is?
yeah, I could give you an exact average, but just off the cuff, the average finish time is probably between 7 to 9 hours. So
Yes.
Wow.
yeah.
Challenge accepted.
In fairness, probably about 7 hours, sorry, but that's the fastest time, which is going to blow you away. Damien Humbert, he's from France, and he ran it in 4:06:48 last year, which I know that sounds like a long time for 33K, but when you watch him move, and he ended up finishing second in the series. So he pretty strong athlete, but yeah, incredible to see them move as quickly as they do in that type of terrain.
Now, are you cutting people off at aid stations if they're not getting there?
And where do they go?
Yeah.
That's a good question. We have what we call the escape route. So it's like if they run into aid station 1 and they're not there by a certain time cutoff, we have a cutoff that sort of sends them back out onto a course, and they connects with a road that then takes them back to the course, and they finish. They get to finish the last part of the race course, but it shortcuts like most of the high segment of race course. And then we have a second a second cutoff coming into aid station 2, which is the same. If they get there past a certain time, we send them out on the escape route as opposed to the longer leg of the course between aid stations. And yeah.
Wow.
It'd be nice to be helicoptered out.
Sure would. We had a lot of those comments last year.
Okay, we'll get there. But first, can you explain the whole Skyrunning series, if you can, when it started and all that stuff?
Forgive me, I don't know the answer to when the Skyrunner World Series actually started, but skyrunning became a sport in 1992. It was sort of defined as a sport and became really recognized as like a separate sport from trail running. And that's something that the ISF, the International Skyrunning Federation, they sort of came up with parameters that truly define skyrunning to differentiate it from trail running. Because there are some crossovers, but they want it to be recognized as an actual individual sport to the point now where they're actually trying to work with the IRC to make skyrunning an eventual, probably a trial sport in the Olympics at some point. But
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Something trail related.
Oh my.
Exactly. Fingers crossed. That would be huge for the sport of skyrunning if that did happen. It'd be like sort of like Eco Challenge in the 90s for us, getting us excited about adventure racing. But yeah,
Exactly.
But to answer your question, so there's 13 races in the Skyrunner World Series this year, dispersed amongst 8 countries in the world. So we're the only one in North America. They do have one in South America within a week or 2 weeks of our event, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, they basically run a series which is throughout the world. Then they have sort of premier races and regular sky races, and there's points associated to your finishing times that they race. Our race there's points for the top 10 racers in each category, and then those points are applied to sort of a series points tally, sort of like accumulated over the course of the year based on the number of races you do. And then there's at the end of the series the Sky Masters, which I believe they've got like 100,000 euros for the prize money at the Sky Masters this year, which is pretty incredible. So they're definitely putting a lot into the sport to help it grow and gain awareness for the sport of skyrunning.
And of course, the Meet the Minotaur had to have parameters to get into the series.
Certainly did. Yeah, we had to. Yeah, in terms of the fine print of the contract between us and the Skyrunner World Series, there's a lot of requirements that we must meet. Being like, we have a prize podium that's 10 deep, so with cash prizing for those athletes.
Oh wow!
Ranking systems and recording systems that we have to provide, of course. And then of course the course itself had to meet the skyrunning parameters. We had to get the course certified outside of like skyrunning, the World Skyrunner Series, which is separate from the International Skyrunning Federation. So we had to have our course accredited through the International Skyrunning Federation, and then be able to come back to the Skyrunner World Series to present our course to say, yeah, we believe we've got suitable material to be a part of the series.
And as a runner, do you have to run so many races in order to be qualified to win it at the end of the year?
You do, yeah. You have to have a certain number of points and be ranked to race in the finals at the end of the year.
And the cash prizing, is that something that you have to come up with through your sponsors? It
is, yeah. So we do look to get sponsors for our event. Arc'teryx is actually our title sponsor this year. So it's the Minotaur Sky Race presented by Arc'teryx, which is super exciting. Any money, of course, that does come in from sponsors just helps to offset operating costs. And part of our operating costs are, of course, the prize podium that's provided.
Yeah. Wow. That's an interesting format.
And the Minotaur falls into where as far as the series starts? Is it the beginning of the series?
We're in the beginning of the series, yes. The first race, I believe, is coming up this weekend. And we're, I think I could look it up quickly, but I think we're the third or fourth race in the series this year. Pretty early on, actually, especially considering the environment we're in with the snow and everything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that must cause you a little bit of anxiety.
Oh man, you want to talk anxiety? It was a week before the start line. We were out on the course and we had this massive snowfall, like 20 centimeters of snow the week before our race last year, which was a bit panicky. And we actually even had to delay the start of our race due to snow overnight the night before. So we delayed the race start by an hour or two just to allow a little bit of snow melt. We knew the daytime temperatures would get up, but we also knew that the lead racers could get into an environment that we don't want them to be in with fresh snow on the ground.
Right. How far are you from Calgary, Andrew?
We're 2 hours south of Calgary.
South. Okay.
South and west of Calgary. Yeah. Crowsnest Pass is right in the southwest corner of Alberta. So we are right in we're the southernmost community in the Canadian Rockies, short of Waterton Lakes National Park.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have the visual now.
And where is the finals going to be held?
Oh, that's a good question too.
Sorry, we're directors. We ask directing questions.
Norm, that is an excellent question and it's one that I'm not going to be able to answer because the Skyrunner World Series has not even announced where Sky Masters will take place yet.
Ah, interesting.
So that is interesting. What if they say the Minotaur is going to be the finals this year? Then what do you do?
Well, as a race director, I would probably sweat a few bullets and
Well, that's possible because the actual race that's in the finals is probably one of the series they actually raced before, and then they're going back.
Yeah. I would like to think they would give us a little bit more heads up than that. but you know what? I would be honored. That would be quite the, I know myself and my team, we would love that idea.
And you'll get it done, I'm sure.
For sure.
Now, this sounds like a really gnarly race. Tell us some stories about weather-related injury or injuries that may have taken place or any kind of evacuations.
Animals on the course.
Animals on course. Anything that crazy stories that happened during one of your events of the Minotaur.
Cool. You know what? Okay, first of all, we've been, knock on wood, we've been really fortunate that short of minor injuries, we've never had a major injury. Saying that, we have a pretty extensive safety plan in place just due to the remoteness of the course. That does involve helicopters and possible lawn line rescuing if needed, for sure. So, sorry, I don't have any blood, guts, and gory stories to share. But
well, I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you.
That means you're doing your job.
For sure. But we definitely, I can guarantee that almost every single person that crosses the finish line is bleeding from somewhere.
Good answer.
Have you guys checked out our merch via our website, Gotta Run Racing? We have some really cool swag, including the mugs that, if you've watched our YouTube video, that we drink with. Cool red mug with a cork bottom. It keeps liquids nice and cold or warm. What else do we have on there, Norm?
Well, we have our shirts that I'm wearing.
That's right. You can either choose from Gotta Run Podcast or Gotta Run Racing. You can also find our 20-liter dry bags, which are a steal at $25. Perfect for using it drop-off bag at an aid station. We've got flasks, We also have cooling multifunctional neckwear, which is a fancy word for a cooling buff. Has the Gotta Run Racing and podcast logos on it. Not to mention, we have the affiliate links for the 3 companies, for the 3 brands that we are affiliated with, that being Air Relax, Compression Therapy, Caffeine Bullet, and Kinesis Sunscreen. So by following those links, you can access exclusive discounts. So do check that out, GottaRunRacing.com.
The nature of the course, it's like, I'm sure you guys have gone running in Stree or in talus and rocky terrain, and that inevitable rock. We do it all the time. We just run down Stree slopes and you're like, I really hope I don't take one off the ankle. But you always take one right off the ankle and you're like,
Yeah.
You just get that nauseous feeling for a second and roll on with it. But so yeah, it's injuries like that are the most common that we do see on the race course, is just not cuts and nicks. And we live in a limestone environment on our race course, so it's pretty sharp, like hands on deck in a lot of places. So yeah, people getting cuts and scrapes. But we've also seen, as I'm sure you have too, but people cross the finish line and you're amazed that they've run 33.5 kilometers, and then at 33.501 kilometers, their body seizes up instantly and they flop over to the ground and they're done. So,
Yep.
yeah, definitely things like that. And in terms of environment, we live right in the middle of grizzly bear and black bear country. We've got cougars, we've got mountain sheep and goats, and we, knock on wood, have not had any wildlife sightings on our race course. We've had goats and sheep, but that's also something that we do pay respect to, that if there's sheep or goats on our race course, then we have to respect that. If they haven't moved on by race day, then we give them their space to live and be in their environment first before it was ours.
Absolutely. Now, you've attracted some big names from the OCR field, like Lindsay Webster and Ryan Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
And we've actually spoken to a couple of guests that have done the race before, Joanna Ford, Pat Humany.
Yeah.
I imagine because this is part of a international series, you've had quite a few international runners come over. What do you think the percentage of international participation is at this point?
We're probably sitting at about 15% international athletes amongst our two events. Of course, heavier into the Minotaur Sky Race. A lot of American athletes. We haven't had our European. We have Europeans signed up, but we don't have the Skyrunner World Series. Will actually put a contingent of 10 to 15 racers into the event as well, based on rankings at that time. We've got down in New Zealand, Australia, athletes represented. So it's really cool. But I get more locally though, and speaking of like Ryan Atkins and Lindsay, who won the overall Skyrunner World Series last year. Incredible. So
yes,
they were just living in our community. They just hit the road on Saturday. Actually, they were living in our community for a few months. We got to hang out with them a few times. But just incredible athletes and incredible people. Really, but the local contingent is also pretty cool to see. Like we've got some really strong local athletes. When I say local, I mean like right in Crowsnest Pass, but also Squamish out on the coast and Canada, being 2 rival outdoor communities, have a really strong contingent represented from each of those locations. There's quite a few racers that crossed the finish line last year in that top 20 field that turned around. Like we've got respectable athletes that are in that 20 to 30th position. And a lot of people had said that that's one of the deepest fields they've ever raced amongst in Canada, which is a pretty cool compliment for sure.
Yeah. Now, would you say that Crowsnest is becoming a bit of a hub for people that are trail running that want to be competitive?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, we do have a pretty competitive group of runners in the Crowsnest Pass. Our business partners, Ian and Susan, they own Spry Active, which is an active outdoor store focused on like endurance sports, being skiing and running and all sorts of outdoor activities. But they've definitely helped to get people into running shoes in our community. And when I first moved to the community in 2005, I was running down the street wearing my winter tights and everything like that. And somebody rolled down a window and yelled something at me that shouldn't be repeated. And probably because I was one of the few people doing it at that time. But honestly, now our community has grown into such an outdoor hub with a lot of activities going on and hosting a lot of outdoor events and endurance events, which is really cool to see. So yes, I would say that we've definitely seen a massive growth in the community with outdoor sports and endurance athletes. Yeah.
When you think about where can you go in Canada to train for these races
in a short window.
Yes, weather-wise too. It's quite limited in comparison to other countries. Like if you think of the States, you could name 10 places you could go at the drop of a hat, or Europe. But for Canada, it's a little different. I think that speaks a lot to what you guys have to offer out there. And I'd like to hear that the community is growing in that way.
It is. It's growing in so many ways. And I shouldn't even just say like the athletes and the group, but the community is recognizing that like where we are in not only like topographically, but also just like where we are. We've got this opportunity of this unbelievable backyard with unlimited amounts of terrain that it's our biggest asset. It really is. It's so beautiful. And lots of opportunity for sure.
What's the name of the store? I'm not sure if you mentioned it before. Spry.
Right. Okay. Stry.
I like it.
Yeah.
Back to the Minotaur.
Nor's thinking of more questions.
Yeah, no problem.
What is the DNF rate?
DNF rate is probably with cut up. So because we do allow 12 hours, we actually have a highly successful finish rate, which again, yes, we do. But there's people that were coming in after 12 hours last year. So there is a DNF rate, but it's not as high as you might think, only because, again, we want to, coming back to sort of like myself and my business partners and why we love this event, it's seeing that like sheer satisfaction of racers crossing the finish line. So trying to give that opportunity to all of the athletes to sign up.
That's great.
There is a DNF rate, but it's not as high as one might think.
Good.
Also, it's 12 hours. What time does the race start at?
It starts at 7 a.m, so we allow, till 7 p.m. that night.
So it's all daylight?
It is, yeah. Because we're close to the summer solstice at June 24th, that's unfortunately, like we had some say in terms of our scheduling, but we also had to plunk into the Skyrunner World Series, of course, not to interfere with other ones. But conveniently, I think that works well for us. If I'm wearing my race director hat and thinking about the potential for emergency, as much daylight as possible plays to our advantage for sure.
Any plans on increasing the distance or having a series around this?
Man, I hope my partners aren't listening, because if I say yes, they're all going to be like, that's a really good question, Norm. And I do want to see skyrunning grow. So I think the idea of having a series is probably more attractive than changing our existing course and increasing the distance. I think based on the type of terrain and everything, I think we've nailed the distance. I think it's a good length, and it challenges, well, not even just the people that are winning their race, but right through our spectrums. But I do want to see the sport of skyrunning grow. We all do this as a hobby. We're passionate about it, but it's not our full-time jobs. So the idea of adding more races to a series is as attractive and as exciting that is. But the realistic answer is we probably just don't have it in our wheelhouse to be able to carry that out. But yeah, not to say that we wouldn't love the idea or wouldn't love to see other people getting into the sport and coming up with skyrunner courses that would meet the standards and truly be defined as a skyrunning race.
Does it have to be a certain distance to be a skyrunning?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, most of them are usually in that 20 to 30 kilometer range, but yeah, it's more so having a certain distance race course, but the elevation is the key. They want it ideally over 2,000 meters of elevation, and trying to key those differences between the lowest point and the highest point on the race course, which honestly, to take a step aside and be critical, is there's not a lot of places in Canada that can really meet the standards to define themselves as a skyrunning race course, which is why you see way more trail running races throughout the world than you do skyrunning races.
Right. Now, you have any advice for anyone that's taking this on for the first time? What's the strategy for the average person to take on this course?
Yeah, just give it to me.
Like, pretend it's Norm.
I've never done a sky running event. So I'm coming to your race. How am I going to get through it?
Okay, so I'm going to make some assumptions, Norm, that you've obviously got a really good base behind you. Or you know what it's like to spend time on your feet. But I think the thing that gets people in our event is it's honestly the uphills and the downhills. Like the climbs, no one is running the climbs. Like we're pushing grades exceeding 30%. So it's like there could be grades on the course, like for short periods where you have to use your hands and like clamber up through little chimneys. Like those would be like, 80% grades. But saying that though, the thing that usually beats people up the most is the ups and the downs and the technical type of terrain. So in one sentence, if I had to give you a training advice, it's like, make sure you're putting in the vertical, testing your quads for the downs, but also being really comfortable on undulating terrain, like terrain that moves underneath your feet, like nothing. Assume nothing is stable when you're running on the race course.
Good advice.
That's interesting. Because basically what I'm thinking on the average time of 7-8 hours, that's the average time of a 50K.
Yeah.
So therefore, they have to know that they may go in overconfident that it's only 33K. But no, you got to think of it as you're going to be out there pretty much all day.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Actually, no, that's a really good analogy, the 50K timing. That's pretty well bang on. If I thought about my race course, or if I was to run a 50 right now and then go do the Minotaur course, it'd probably be almost an identical time.
Yeah.
If you guys are ever interested in racing our event, I would really hope you reach out to me because I would love to have you at our start line.
Thank you.
And then remember, we have the Minotaur 10K too. If you just dabble in our hills, but
sounds good for me.
But I know you'd both be at the 33.5. I'm not even.
Well, I'll be looking forward to the escape routes.
I don't think so, but on that note, if you want to head out west and do some training in the mountains prior to UTMB, then I would love to take you guys out on some trails and just show you our backyard. Like, and myself and my partners, we're super passionate about where we live and we love to share it with others. So yeah, any one of us would love to take you guys out for sure.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of the race that we haven't asked you that you wanted to cover up?
I don't think so. No, I think, registration is still open for both events. We've got spots. The Sky Race is getting close to full. Like we don't have many spots left there, but the Minotaur, the 10K, Canada's hardest 10K, we do have spots still left in that one.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to come out and see one of the most beautiful places in the world, just speaking to your listeners, then come and sign up for the Minotaur Sky Race or the Minotaur 10K because I promise you it'll be
How do we or where do we sign up?
Yeah, the best place to sign up is via our website, which is meettheminotaur.com.
Okay. All right. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes and for people can check it out.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and for reaching out.
Thank you guys likewise. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys and share the sport of skyrunning with you. I think it's a pretty cool thing and I'm excited about seeing you guys at our start line one day.
Awesome.
Well, I learned a lot about skyrunning because I always felt that I always put skyrunning and ultra running in the same category, but it's not the same category.
No, yeah, it really isn't. You can have ultra sky races where they're going like about that 50K distance. So sort of a combination of the definition, but yeah, they are definitely two different sports for sure.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Now, as a regular listener, you know how we end our podcast with some rapid fire. So why don't we do that right now?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to go back to some questions that we usually have for people in our age category. We've been talking to a lot of younger people lately, and we haven't been able to do these questions. So Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, Star Wars, for sure. Yeah.
Hey, you're my long lost brother.
70s or 80s music?
80s music for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather be a professional writer, painter, or musician?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't have the hair for musician, so I think I'm going to go with painter.
That leads into the next question, and we'll explain why.
Yeah.
Name a TV show that you're embarrassed to say you watch.
Currently?
Yeah.
You know what? To be honest, I don't watch a lot of TV. I'm sort of like like my favorite TV show to watch, and maybe I'm embarrassed to say this on air, is The West Wing. I'll watch that series over and over again.
West Wing, wow.
Nice. What's another sport you'd like to excel in?
Another sport I'd like to excel in. Well, I need one sport that I could excel in first. I would, you know what? I always wish I put more focus into mountain biking. I think if I had to pick one, I was probably always a better runner than I was a mountain biker. So yeah, mountain biking is probably one of my favorite sports. That would be it. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite junk food?
Oh, Swedish berries or Swedish fish.
Oh, you're a candy guy.
Oh, am I ever a candy guy? That's maybe more embarrassing than the TV show I wouldn't tell you about.
There we go. All right, last question.
Well, I got 2 more.
Okay.
What 100-miler is on your bucket list? You never did mention it.
Oh, man. Western states are hard rock. Probably hard rock. That would be, and not that I put my name for it or tried to apply, but I think that race just has a lot of, just the location alone. Like my wife and I have holidayed down in the valley of like a Silverton area, and it would be stunning there. Hard rock. Solid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And last question, pick a superpower.
Oh, well, that's a tough one too. As a race director, the ability to control the weather.
Is there a superhero that does that?
I don't think there is a super. So if there's no superhero that does that, I'm going to invent it. But then if I couldn't, then I would pick the ability to heal. I would give some to others for sure by touch.
Yeah.
That would come in handy for sure.
This has been awesome.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you guys so much. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys, and please don't ever forget. Like I'm not just saying this. I'm expecting an email or a phone call one day to say, "Hey, Andrew, we're coming out your way." So
okay,
all right.
Well, you will make good on that promise.
Yep. Great. You just added another race to our bucket list. It's getting longer and longer.
That's great.
And best of luck this year.
Yeah, thank you very much, and to you guys too with your events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, likewise.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I guess we're going to Alberta. You know what, though? This podcast has really been amazing to open ourselves up to people in different places and learning about what their trails are like and the type of running that they do out there. Because I can't imagine every day walking out my door onto this rocky, full of vert, elevation.
Oh, God, I'd love it.
I know. It'd be so great. But I love the fact that we've met so many people.
Yeah.
And we have kept in touch with many of our guests.
Mm-hmm.
And we look forward to seeing them at races or whatever the case may be. But I love that. That's part of this community.
Well, just the fact that we had Elsa McDonald on our podcast and we met her at Moab finally 2 years later.
Yeah. And we chatted like we knew each other because of the pod. So this is cool.
I learned a lot about skyrunning because I always put them together as ultra running / skyrunning, but it's a different category. It's kind of a different sport.
Absolutely.
It's a shorter distance and it's above a certain altitude.
And technical.
Yeah.
I would imagine the ones in Europe are very technical too.
Yeah.
So, because once you get above that elevation, the terrain is totally different. It's not nice paved or pathways.
That's the thing. When I retire from ultra running, I'm going to become a sky runner. And that's it's
not in Ontario, you're not.
And that's the thing. I'm going to check out the series and where are all these sky running events, 8 different countries.
Well, if they all have 10Ks, then I'm in.
Yeah. And escape routes.
Yeah. No, it was very interesting learning about that because you're right. We don't know much about that.
Yeah. Because I always just felt that it was ultra running, but no, it's not.
No.
So there you go.
Yep. Totally different. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention. All right.
Okay.
And that's it. Until next time.
See ya. We are your hosts, Jody and Norman. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast or wherever you're listening. Please visit our website, GottaRunRacing.com for more details and join us on social media at GottaRunRacing on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can support our channel by joining us on Patreon. All of the links can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Cheers.